Now that we've seen how well ChatGPT can do when you provide it with a bunch of context, I'm going to walk you through arguably one of the most important prompting techniques that you can take into the way that you use ChatGPT. I'm going to show you one of the most important prompting techniques out there, and that is to include examples. Why do we include examples? Well, we include examples because AI is essentially a mimicking machine. It essentially just predicts things for us. So when we provide examples, it primes the AI with the valuable information that it needs to handle things that it doesn't usually handle very well without it. Those things are, tone, style, structure. Without providing examples, you often get a very generic and AI-y sounding output. So sometimes it might be just enough to include one example, but most of the time you probably want to include up to 3 examples. When you have shorter form content, like let's say you're writing a LinkedIn post or you want it to write an email, I'd include up to 10 examples or 7 examples. I wouldn't go beyond 10. I'd probably keep it around 7 for those shorter form content pieces. And for longer form content, I'd probably include around 2 to 3. Now, one of the important things to consider when adding in context or examples into a prompt is that you want to provide structure around those examples or around that context. So what I usually do is I will provide an example and then I'll provide triple quotes around that example. Let me show you this in practice so that it makes sense. Okay, so it's now time to see what difference examples make. Here, I'm not going to include an example, but I'm going to write a job description for a UI and UX design job at Apple. And the response I'm going to get, it's probably going to be pretty decent because the AI is trained on a lot of the data on the internet. So it's probably been trained on these job descriptions before. But I just don't think it's in the same tone and style and company voice that Apple likes to use in their job descriptions. So let's have a look at how Apple does their job descriptions. As you can see, they've got a very specific structure. They've got a specific way of writing. And it looks quite different to the one that ChatGPT gave me. So what we'll do is we'll copy this and we'll put it into ChatGPT. So I'm back on ChatGPT, and as you can see, I've included 3 quotes here at the top and at the bottom, and I'm going to post in the job description. Now, this is the example of providing the structure to the AI. So if I type here example 1, and in this case, I'll just include one example, but for this type of task, I'd probably include, 3 to 5 examples of past job descriptions. But what this is doing is it's telling the AI that this is a piece of context. So that's why I put it in the triple quotes. And then these are essentially the instructions. So I'm making it very distinct. Which part of the prompt is instructions and which part is context. And so here we have the exact same description that we had earlier, but now I've said your life depends on you mimicking the tone, style, and structure of a previous job description we posted. And this is an example of emotional prompting, which actually leads to better answers. It almost stops AI from being lazy. So for these types of important things where I want it to mimic the tone and style and structure, I'll say that your life depends on it. And you could say something like, my career depends on it, or another form or variation of that. But what I'll do is I'll submit enter now. And we'll see that the structure is very, very similar. And the tone and style is very similar to the example that I uploaded before. It's not perfect. I'd definitely include maybe 2 more to 3 more examples here, but we're definitely doing a lot better than we had before.